Well, good morning. It is May 10th, 2024. It is 7:54 a.m. in the morning. Yep, we're here. It's Friday. I'm so happy that it's Friday. It's been a long week, y'all. I'm on here kind of having an idea of what I want to talk about. Not really sure how to put all of it together, so we're going to just kind of wing this as we always do. I've been thinking a lot about time lately, this past week. And, when we reflect and we look back on things and how different that time was, whether it's a person, a place, a thing, but it's very different, right? And I talked about in my last video, we grew up in I grew up, most of the people who I think that watch this, we grew up in, some people grew up in black and white TV, VHS, DVDs, answering machines. We still had the phones plugged on the wall, and I talk about how we're going into this new world and what this new world looks like. And this new world is all cyber, electronic, robots. It's very futuristic. And it's funny because you go back and you look at movies that you watched and you go, wow, what if the future's really like that? Well, look at the Jetsons. The Jetsons predicted our future. If you look at watching the Jetsons show, and if you don't know who the Jetsons are because you're not at that age, I don't know what to tell you. Simpsons. Everybody knows the Simpsons. Simpsons predicted a lot of things. So it's interesting how you look back on history and how do we know then what we know now, right? And we all say that a lot about ourselves, about a lot of things, and I look back and I go, had I known God the way I know him now, how different my life would have been, right? But it's funny how God works, because that was not in God's plan for us to know that then. He gave hints. Movies came out, TV shows came out. We were all given hints, but we didn't really know what we were looking at. We were just watching the cartoon, or we were just, we weren't looking at the details. But somebody later on went back and watched it and goes, wow, did you ever see that? Did you ever notice that? When you watch a movie and you can watch it more than once, something else you see in that movie that you didn't see the first time you watched it? So I find that funny that we move so fast in our lives that we don't pay attention to the details. We don't observe things the way that we used to. And a lot of it, if you look at a lot of people, I'm a people watcher. God, y'all, I will pay to go to Disneyland to sit at a bench and just watch people. It's fascinating to me. People are fascinating to me. People's minds are intriguing to me. So, if you sit back and you watch people and you look at them and you can go, I wonder why that, or I wonder why this, or you think of them and in your head, you have a perspective, or you've made a conclusion or an assumption about somebody or something just by visually looking at them. And if you think about that, when you meet somebody on any level, and I don't care whether it's a relationship, like you're going on a date, or if you're sitting at a bar and you're just talking to a friend, or it doesn't matter. But when you sit and you're talking to somebody, you are visually seeing that first. So based on how they look is based on how you think you need to approach them. Does that make sense? So instead of seeing somebody for what they visually look like and making your assumption and not going up and talking or not saying something or not doing something, you're hindering yourself and your knowledge and your understanding, and you're hindering your gifts, believe it or not. Because we talk a lot about Maybe you're at a certain place at a certain time, and maybe you're somebody's blessing. But you don't know that, and neither do they in that time. But we're learning as we're going on in our journeys that not everything is an accident. Most of us are finding out that every step and every choice that we make, God is involved in it in one way or another, whether it's a lesson or a blessing. So for me, and in my journey, and this is where it gets really hard for people to, I think, to kind of understand. God, I don't know how it works. Kind of hard to understand the humility part of things. So, yes, I am focused on me. I am focused on my goals. I am focused on the things that I want in my life. I am focused on the things that are important to me. My healing, my goals, my things. So that may sound very, very selfish. However, my goals are not just for me. So everything that I do and everything that I think about is not only for my future, but it's for the future of others as well. When we talk about time, you set a goal for yourself, okay? I don't care what the goal is. All right? But let's talk about a realistic goal. Let's just start there. Because some people say, I want to have fame and fortune, and then you just kind of roll your eyes and go, my God, come back to reality. So when you think of a goal for yourself, you're thinking about your future. You are already looking at what you're wanting in your life, what you want for your future. So in your mind, in your journal, in your prayers, in your thoughts, you are already thinking ahead of something that you want. So you are predicting your own future. Now, is what you're doing helping you, making you healthy, giving you a different perspective, giving you a better mindset on things? Is your goal going to affect other people in a positive way or in a negative way? Because if your goal is to help people, help yourself, help your family, help your business, help your employees, you get where I'm going? Help your neighbors, help your community, is what you're doing helping, then you are aligning with God, that God will answer those prayers on the future that you're looking for, because it's all God's will. So though your goals may be on a personal level, the bigger picture is who is it affecting and how is it helping other people in the future. You want a successful business that maybe is going to grow, and your product or whatever you're doing is going to help people. This is why there's public speakers. This is why when you look at them and they go, God, they're getting rich, or God, they're making money. You look at pastors and they're growing and you're going, God, their church is building. God, look at their new car. God. But that's because they're helping people, so God is blessing them. They set their goal and they've obtained their goal, so you can't be mad at them because they did a goal that you have not yet done for yourself. So you get angry and you get frustrated that you're watching other people's future and you're watching them succeed and you're watching things change, and in the meantime you're sitting in your pity party and you're going, why can't I do that? Why does she get to do that? What makes her special? What makes her... I'm not. We're not. There's nothing special about us. We just changed our mindset. So change your mindset. Go inward. Fix some things. Change some things. Look at things differently. When you are repeating patterns over and over and over again, you are not going to change your timeline. It's going to change no matter what, but you are either going to go deeper into your hole, or you're going to change your mindset and you're going to soar higher. You're going to do better. You're going to see things differently. So when you're in a circumstance and you're in a storm and something is happening, it's in what we call the 3D. It's in front of you. It's happening in front of you, right? You may not be where you want to be, because where you're at, you're either sitting in a fog, you're sitting in a pity party, you're having a storm, you're out of control, you don't know what to do, your life is in shambles, you can't seem to get your crap together, everything is just not moving, everything's not going. So you now are at a fork and you're at a crossroads and you have a choice on how do you want to proceed from here. Well, I'm waiting on God. I'm waiting on God to tell me. Really? Because if you were waiting on God to give you an answer for something that you're waiting for, maybe God's waiting on you to make the right choice so that he can keep moving with you. You see, we are constantly waiting for something or somebody. God's not asking you to hold your life. He's not asking you to wait. He may be asking you to be still, because there may be some times where you need to be still. You need to think about what's next. You need to heal a little bit more. There's a waiting. You're on the runway. You're in line to take off. So you're in the plane and you're waiting and you're on the runway, but you're not quite taking off yet. So you're waiting. You're in the waiting period. You're in the waiting pattern. You're waiting your turn to take off. But what are you doing in the meantime while you're waiting? Are you sitting on the plane complaining, God, can't we just take off already? Oh my God, I'm already uncomfortable. Oh my God, this is going to be the longest flight of my life. Or you got your headphones on and you're watching a movie and you could really care less. You're reading that book. You just know that this flight is going to take a long time and there's nothing you can do about it. You know you're trying to get somewhere. You know you have a destination that you want to be at, but you know that there's a process that you have to do in order to get to that destination. So you're just going to have to sit on the plane for a couple hours and you're just going to have to enjoy the kid screaming next to you. Or do you play with the kid? Do you help the parent? Do you help occupy a kid in a very small environment, knowing that this parent is probably feeling very, very embarrassed because they know that their kid is screaming and they're on a plane and they have no control over that? Do you complain about that? Do you tell your kid, tell them, can you please get your kid to be quiet? Or do you go, oh, I know, hon. It is what it is. You got a kid. Let's just see how we can occupy them. Let's just work together on this. So your perspective is up to you. So when you're seeing something in the 3D and you see something that's in front of you and you're at a fork road, or you have a choice in the storm on how you want to proceed with this, or how you want to fix this relationship, or what you want to do, you have to look into the future for that, don't you? You have to look into what they call the 5D. You have to set your mindset to reach a goal that you have not yet done. And do you look at it as it's impossible, or do you look at it with determination and go, I don't know how long this is going to take, but I know what I want. I know what I deserve. I know what I'm worth. I know what God says. I'm just going to keep going because God is in this and he's with me and I will see progress somewhere. Some days you get on the scale and you gained a pound or two. Some days you get on the scale and you lost a pound or two. And you go, well, why did I gain? I worked my butt off. I ate my salads. I drank my water. Why would I have gained? Maybe it's your time of the month. Maybe you had more stress than you thought. Maybe you didn't um didn't eat right, or maybe you didn't. I don't know. I don't know where you're at in your walk, but physically, when you are trying to reach yourself a goal, you've got to make it obtainable. This is why they tell you to start small, because you may be looking at it going, I have 50 pounds that I need to lose, and my whole goal is to lose 50 pounds by this date or by this time. And that's a year from now. It's 6 months from now. It's whatever you're looking at. It depends on your body. But 50 pounds sounds huge, and it sounds like a lot, and it sounds overwhelming. And when you look in the mirror, it's huge, and it's a lot. And you kind of go, how am I ever going to go from this to this? You start small. You got your food, you got your exercise, you got your sleep, you got your vitamins, you got your water intake. There's a lot of things that have to come together to make that goal happen. There's a lot of pieces that have to come together in order for that business to start. There's a lot. So you have a huge vision. You have a vision board. You have sticky notes. You have your journal. You have an idea of the bigger picture of what you want this to look like. But in order to obtain that, you have to start somewhere. You have to have a focus point. You have to have a mission statement. You have to have something that gears you and guides you. Spiritually, we have a Bible. What do you know? We have something that we can focus on, that we can go to Scripture, that can get us through that moments, those days, those hours. We can pop it up on our phone. We can have it on our desk. We can have a sticky note. We can have it as our screensaver. We have ways visually to remind us of our goals. But it is up to us to obtain those goals that we have now visually made. You can have accountability. You can have a partner. You can have a workout friend. You can have a therapist. You can have friends. You can have people you can say, hey, I really want to obtain this goal. I really need your help in attainment. You are asking somebody for accountability. You have an accountability partner. You have somebody who's going in, and you can go, you own a business and you go to your business partner, or you go to a coworker, or you go to somebody and go, look, I got this project and I really have to finish it by such and such time. I'm stuck and I don't know how to do this part, or I don't know where to go for here. I don't know what my resources are. I've never dove into this part before. Can you help me? But if you're going into this and you're thinking, I got this, this is all me, I'm going to make this work, I'm good, everything is fine, you're going to crash and you're going to burn. Because if you think that you are in control of everything, spiritually speaking, you are in control of your body, you are in control of what you put into it, you are in control of what you put out of it, that is something internal, that is something for you. You can do this. This is all your mindset. But in order to get where you want to go, in order to do what you want to do, you have to have people, your peeps, you have to have help along the way in order to succeed in that. You have to form a team in order to succeed in your business. You have to have people who spiritually understand you in order to go further in your giftings. You have a pastor, you have a church, you have fellowship, you have Bible study, you have your sisters in Christ, you have your brothers in Christ, you have your entourage, or your group, or your peeps, or your homies. You have your people that push you along the way. Your homies are either pushing you to be better, or they're holding you back. So if you're in the 3D and you're looking at the perspective of where you're at in your life and you want to get to the 5D, there are some things you're going to have to shift. There are some things you're going to have to move. There are some things you're going to have to change, whether that's physically, mentally, or spiritually. But if the things that you're doing are helping people, the things that you're doing are guiding people, the things you're doing are being a successful business that is going to help the community, that's going to help people, it's going to It's going to help things flourish. It's going to help things move. It's going to help the river flow. God's going to bless that. So if you look back in time and you look back on some of the things that you were at, that's a whole nother time that you were in. That was a whole nother era. That was decades. That was this. That was that. Maybe it was just yesterday. Because some of us are living day to day at this point, but we can go back and we can see how things were, and we're no longer living in black and white, y'all. We are no longer living in VHSs. You guys, movies are at our fingertips. We no longer have to take, I have a friend, she's actually a friend on my Facebook right now, and her dad used to record all of movies, and he had a library of movies, but he took 2 DVD players and he recorded or something. I don't even know how he did it back then, but you could go in and he had a library of movies. Wow, how things have changed. Look at cell phones. We had a phone on our wall. And now we have kids talking to people they don't even know in a world that's insane. But we knew who our kids were talking to back then because we were the ones that answered, or our parents were the ones who answered the phone. We'd run to get to the phone. We had the really, 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 really long cord so we could be in another room so our parents couldn't hear us. Oh, they could hear us. But you know what? You get what I'm saying? But back then it was different. It was innocent. It was different back then. This world is very different now, you guys. Nothing is what it used to be for us. How do we now live in a world at the ages that we are all at and live together? This is where living together becomes difficult. We don't all see things the same way. We don't all have the perspective of things the same way. Your goal may not be my goal. But how do I obtain my goal and you obtain your goal, and yet we all keep moving forward? You can look at that on so many different levels, you guys. You see, what you do learn in therapy is that if you change yourself and you hold your boundary and you hold true, your yes is yes and your no is no, then the atmosphere and your people and your family and your home will eventually shift and change with you. Now, if you're talking about your home life and you're talking about yourself, now let's just put this scenario out here. You got kids, you have a husband, you're doing your thing, but you're not happy. Are you depending on your spouse to make you happy? Are you depending on your kids to make you happy? Are you depending on your circumstances to change to make you happy? Are you grasping onto materialistic or to other people to make your happiness? You're going to fail. It's going to fail. I'm going to straight up tell you right now, you already failed. It is not up to somebody else to make your happiness, to give you joy. That is up to you. It's very hard in a family dynamic. I understand that. Let's say that you are wanting to change your eating habits, or you're wanting to go down a healthier route, but your spouse or your children don't. The foods that you're going to eat, maybe your kids won't eat, or maybe your husband's going, this isn't enough food, I can't eat this. I understand that. So you have to shift, you have to change your mindset, you have to change the way that you cook, you have to change the way that you do something so that you can still satisfy everybody else. So maybe this is a sit down that you sit down with your spouse and going, look, this is really important to me. You know that I've been struggling. You know that I've been having a really hard time with things. I really need your support in this. I'm not asking you to eat the foods that I eat, but I'm asking you that maybe you can help me during the week make meals for you and the kids that that you guys want to eat, or maybe I can implement, like, let's just say you're going to make burgers on a grill. Well, maybe you want a turkey burger and everybody wants beef. That's fine. Just know you're going to spend a little bit different in groceries. You're going to do a little bit something. You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. I don't have all those answers for you because I don't know your household and I don't have, but I'm trying to give you some kind of examples as to how can you shift yourself? How can you change yourself but not make everybody else do it with you if they don't want to? Because that's not for them, or they don't want to. But how do you support one another? How do you do this? Well, maybe your husband doesn't want to change his eating habits, but maybe after dinner he'll go for a walk with you. And maybe that's your time together. You're getting out, you're exercising, you're moving your body, you're spending one-on-one time together. You're having some intimate conversations. You're talking about some plans, some future things, but you're taking a nice walk together. You're exercising, you're getting out, you're taking the dog with you. Maybe you got the kid in a stroller. Maybe you're just doing your thing. I don't know. Take the kids to the park and they're in the park and you're on a bench and the two of you are talking and you're hanging out. I don't know what that all looks like for you. I'm a single woman now, so my life is completely different than that now. But I've been here. I've been there. I've done this. You get what I'm saying? And it's really hard when you're used to eating fried foods and you're now not eating fried foods, but the rest of the family still wants the fried food. That's really hard to do. I know. But this is where you start talking to people. You start talking to people who you're seeing that are doing it or who know, or you're researching or you're looking at it and you're going, okay, how is this going to work in my household? Maybe that works in your household. Maybe that looks great for you, but that is not my reality. That's not my 3D. That's not how we live. Okay. That's okay. That's your life. That's your world. That's how you see things. You know, if you really think about it, you have a house that you live in and you decorate it and you do whatever, or you have kids and your house is a mess. That's okay. You're living your life for you, the way you want to live. You're living in your world. Your house, your domain is your world. That's your sanctuary. That's your safe zone. That's your peace. Well, maybe your home isn't your peace right now. So you're all over the place and you're becoming a workaholic because you'd rather be anywhere but home. You'd rather do anything than come back to this. Or maybe you're the husband who gets off of work and he decides to, remember this show Cheers? I just thought about this the other day. The show Cheers, they all get together and they hang out and they have beers and they, Cheers was the place to be, and they were peeps and they got together and they went to the bar every night and they did whatever. Okay, well, were they going to the bar and getting so drunk and getting so smashed and then coming home at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, totally plastered, and dinner is in the microwave for them because they didn't sit at the family dinner because they decided to go have beers after work instead of being home with their family because they were avoiding something? Did you become a workaholic so much that you were avoiding coming home because you knew that when you come home you had to face some things that you didn't want to face? Are you all living in the same household and not really talking, and you're kind of like roommates and you're just kind of going back and forth because you are sweeping things under the rug and nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room? So if we all just keep the peace and nobody talks about it, it'll just go away. But it doesn't go away, does it? It just filters differently. It just adds up. It just piles up. The baggage becomes worse. The circumstance becomes worse. The hole you dig becomes worse. No one's resolving anything. You're now numb. You're now just living and flowing and going through life, and now you're emotionless. And now you have nothing to offer, and now you have nothing to give, and now you're depleted, and your cup is empty. And you're looking and going, this is it. This is my life. This is who I am. It's not going to change. You're just going to have to accept me the way that I am. You're right. But I have a choice whether to accept you the way you are or not. If I'm growing and I'm going and you're not wanting to, I can't change that. I can't make you want to. But I'm going to tell you that if I keep growing and I keep changing and I keep changing my mindset and I keep going higher and I keep looking more at the 5D of what I want in my life, knowing in the 3D where I'm at and where I need to get to in my 5D, I'm not going to allow you to hold me back anymore. And this is sometimes where marriages end. People get divorced. Because it was no longer yoked. It was no longer growing together. You were going in different directions. Things weren't lining up. Maybe when you got married and the time that you got married, it was where you were at. But if you're not growing together with God, you're not having the same goals, you're not having the same ideas, you're not having the same purposes, you're not having the same future together. Your future looks different than their future and you can't get on the same page. Then maybe that's when you have to look at where you want to go next. And this is where marriages say, we just grew apart. We just went in different directions. We weren't seeing things the same anymore. And that's okay. You just now have to figure out, how do we do this with damage control? How do we do this so that we can still, maybe you're at a point where your kids are still young. So do you fight through this? Do you go to therapy? Do you work through this? Do you give each other some space and some time and go, okay, let me figure out some things while you figure out some things, and then we'll come back together and talk. But give me some space, give me some time. I don't know how long that time is. I don't know how long. That's between the two of you. Or do you try and work it out in the same household and you go, okay, let's fight through this. We can do this. We can do this together. We're better than this. We're smarter than this. We're stuck. We're stuck, and let's get unstuck. You see all the choices you have? You see all the perspectives you have? How many times have you tried this? How many times have you gone in the circle over and over again and nothing is changing? And you keep going, if I just do this, it'll change. If I just do this, they will change. We can't change people. But we can't keep holding back and waiting for them to change, and it's hindering our growth and it's hindering us. And this is where the enabling comes in, and this is where we lose ourselves, and this is where we settle. We're going into a new world. We're going into a new era. We're going into something different. We're going into an uncomfortable zone. We're going into a territory we may have never been in. We're moving. Maybe you're physically moving to a new place. Maybe you are physically moving into a new house, into a new neighborhood, into a new city. Maybe you're changing churches. Maybe you're changing your maybe you're living in the same place, but you're changing your group, your people, your standards, your goals, who you hang with, when you hang with them. Everything, no matter how you look at it, everything changes. It's up to you if you want to go with the flow of the change in a positive way or in a negative way. But either way, it's changing. Either way, those roots are growing. It doesn't mean you don't love somebody. It doesn't mean any of that. You guys, there's so many layers to life. There's so much to all of this. And yes, it can become so overwhelming. So take your time. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Everything you do has a purpose. Everything you do has meaning. You are a child of God. You have a purpose in this life, or you wouldn't be here. There's a lot of people that I know that believe in reincarnation. I don't have an opinion on that right now, to be quite honest with you. I've never really dug into their whole reincarnation part. So I'm telling you right now, I don't have a way to look at this either way. Okay? But what I can tell you, sorry, I have to answer a work email. I am working. So either way, however you want to see this, however you want to look at this, there is always going to be a challenge in your life. There's always going to be a storm in your life. There's always going to be a mountain in front of you that you are going to have to move. It is up to you how to move that mountain. You know, the Bible talks about going into everything with an expectation. We have an expectation that God is going to provide for that. We have an expectation that God is going to satisfy and He's going to have all of our needs for us. We have to, so we choose the expectation of God in some ways. Basically, we say, okay, God, I really want to see this take off. I really want to help. I really want to strive in this. I really want to see this happen. I'm praying for my family to see this. I'm praying for this. So we pray it in. We manifest it in. We have a goal. We are saying to God, this is really what I would like to happen. And if it is God's will, because it aligns with Him and it aligns with His heart, and He knows it's for the good of others, and He knows it's for the good of you, and He knows everything He does is for His good. This is why we as disciples spread the good news. But if you're looking at going into this with fear, it doesn't look so good to you. If you're looking at this but the what ifs, what if this happens? What if what? I don't know, what if? What if you just sit there and you don't do anything? What if you don't have that hard conversation? What if you don't work it out? What if, and then you sit back and then you get to that point, right? And you go, God, I wish I would have just done this sooner. Or why didn't I do what I knew I should have done? Why did I wait so long? Don't we look back and say that now? Now that you got here and you go, why did I fight that? Why did I kick and scream going through that? Why didn't I just do it? You have a conversation with somebody, and at the end of the conversation, you go, God, why didn't I say that? Oh, if I would have said that, that would have been so much better. Because you didn't take your time in the process of that conversation to listen to what they actually had to say before you responded. You impulsively responded. So you didn't take the time in listening to them and go, okay, hang on, let me think about that for a second so I can word myself correctly. You just answered. And then you go, man, I should have said that. Or I should have done that. That would have been a way better comeback. Or that would have been a way better way to explain this. Woulda, shoulda, couldas. But what if I told you that by the time that you get to that conversation, by the time that you get to that goal, had you done the process, you won't have the shoulda, coulda, wouldas anymore. Because you got there quicker, faster, easier. Because you had your support team. You had people who wanted to see you strive. You had a goal that you wanted to obtain, and you had people around you who helped you obtain that goal, helped you be accountable for it, helped you succeed in that. You had a business, and you took a team, and you made that business happen because you relied on a great team that you had, and everybody went through that process together. And y'all worked together, and you worked through the headaches of the system, and the headaches of building it, and the headaches of, you're building a house, and you get there, and you watch this, because all of us watch those HGTVs, right? We all watch like the fixer-uppers and all this. Well, don't they always have an issue when they're building a home? They run into some kind of a problem that changes the way the blueprint of the house has to look. We can still do this, but we're going to have to do this, and this is going to cost more money. Or we can do this, and if we change it this way, this keeps us within the budget. So it may not be the way that you thought it was going to look, right? So you had to change the way that it looked. But then you go, wow, that's actually better than what I thought it was. See, I can decorate in a certain way, but I'm very boxy with things. Well, I should say I used to be very boxy. I'm learning to think outside the box a lot more these days, you guys. But everything is strategically placed, but that's part of my OCD. That's part of my perfectionism, I guess you want to say. So everything has to have to have a perfect place. I'm even learning to leave my dishes in the sink at this point, just so that I don't have a heart attack on myself. I'm learning. I'm learning to leave a little bit of a mess for a minute. But when you build a house, you in your mind have a vision of what you want that house to look like. You have land, and you have a plot of land, and you're looking at the land and going, I'd really like to do this with it, or I'd really like to do that with it, but then you have an HOA, you have inspections, and you have this, and you have that. Well, that depends on where you live. Maybe some people have a whole bunch of land, and they could do whatever the heck they want to do with it, and they could build whatever the heck they want to build on it. That's their world that they live in. I drive a lot around in Texas, in my area, and I do a lot of prayer drives, and I have a lot of time that I spend by myself, and I just get out in nature, and I spend all the time. But I'll take drives through places, and I'll look at their homes, and they have ponds, and they have their own swimming pool with a slide, and they have all this land, and you just see, and you go, God, they have their own little world that they live in. It's an amazing little world that they live in. So we all have our own little world, but everybody has our own little world that we live in, this really big world. That, as we're learning, is not really as big as we thought it was, because we're learning that there's something way bigger out there. We have a whole universe out there. There's stars, and there's moons, and there's galaxies, and there's planets, and there's all kinds of things that we're exploring and we're learning about. And we're finding out that as much as the earth is breathing and alive, so is the solar system. So is the astrology. So is the star. They're all moving. They're breathing a life of their own in a world of their own. And God strategically is moving all of those planets and moving all of those stars. And if we're paying attention to that, we see when things shift. We see when things change. But you got to be willing to go deeper. You got to be willing to explore more. You got to be willing to open your mind up to different beliefs, different ideas, different things, and not limit yourself and not limit what God can do based on your perspective. Stop limiting yourself based on your perspective of where you're at in the 3D, of what's in front of you, of where your circumstances are. You are limiting yourself. Don't do that. Stop doing that to yourself. God's got way bigger plans for you, you guys. The end of the earth is not coming literally. An end of an era, an end of time. God will end it when it is time for you to end, and that's when you go to heaven. When your time is up. Revelations is happening. Revelations is coming too. But we're going higher. We are filling the new world while the other one is burning. I talked about this in my last video. What you knew, who you were, is burning. You're in the fire. You're in the flame. You're in the heat of it all right now. Right in front of you, you are in the burning bush. You are in the fire. With those three guys. Bendigo, Bishop, I can't say their names. Sorry, I'm not a pastor, not a preacher. But you're in that fire. And you have a choice to get through that fire and let it burn you. Get through that healing and let it hurt you. Feel the pain. Understand the pain. Find a word for that other than anger. Use your words wisely on how you talk to yourself. Use your words wisely as you're going through this and being patient and being kind and having self-control and not being so impulsive and feeling it and being still and thinking about it and molding it over and writing it down and going, is this a good idea? Is this not? Should I do this? Should I not? Let me sit on this for a little bit. Let me see what else God shows me. Let me see where this is going. Let me wait for their ideas. Let me wait for my team to come up with what they have. And, you sit with your spouse, you sit with your family, you have family meetings and you go, okay, what do you guys think about this? You may be the authority in your home and you may have the final say in your home, but you really should get an idea of what the rest of your family thinks because you're dragging them through whatever you're going through. But if you don't tell them what you're going through, if you don't explain yourself, your family's going, what the heck is wrong with mom? Why is she acting like this? What the heck is wrong with dad? Why is he so angry? Why did he do that? Why was he acting like that? Well, you know your dad. Do you? Why? Why does it got to be like that? So if you're a parent and you have a teenager, you do know you're in two different worlds under the same roof, correct? So look at that on a bigger scale. There's a whole bunch of people living in this world that are completely different in their own world. This is just food for thought for Friday morning. I don't know what else to say. I just want everybody to start to have a different perspective on things. I want everybody to start to think of things a little bit differently. This is how this is going to help you. It's either going to help you or it's going to hinder you. It's either going to be a lesson or it's going to be a blessing, but the lessons are a blessing. And we're learning that as we go because it's helping us. We're self-teaching ourselves on some things. We're learning about ourselves. We're growing in a lot of areas and we're going to screw it up. And we're not going to be perfect because we're human. And God has given us the grace and mercy of knowing that. You're only punishing yourself. It's not God punishing you. He's not punishing you. And maybe you were in timeout and maybe you got punished because that was a choice you made. And you made the wrong choice and there's a consequence to your actions. Maybe you don't feel like you should be doing time in jail, and maybe you feel like you shouldn't have had to pay for that ticket. And you go, man, they got stupid cops, they freaking pulled me over and they gave me a ticket because I didn't have registration. This was so dumb. Well, you didn't have registration, idiot. So you got pulled over and you had to pay the consequence because you didn't have registration or you didn't have insurance on your car because it's a law. It's a dumb law? Or is it? It's dumb to you because you have to pay for it and you don't want to pay for it. So to you, it's dumb. So you're just going to keep driving without insurance until you get into that accident that you now have to pay for out of your own pocket because you didn't protect yourself. We have health insurance to protect ourselves, so when something happens, we can afford to have it fixed. Some of us don't have that insurance. Some of us have state insurance, and we're limited as to who we can go to. How do we go to? The medicines we can have. There's a whole other thing to this, you guys. And I know I'm starting to rant. I got to go because I got to go back to work. But go into this weekend with a different mindset. Start changing. Maybe you already know all this, everything I'm telling you. Maybe you've been stuck and maybe you just had to have a refresher and but this is constant. We're always going to be refreshing ourselves. We're always going to be learning. We're always going to be going back to the Bible and reading the same verses with a different vision, with a different mindset. That verse is going to mean something different to you now than what it used to mean. When I first started this and I talked about your spiritual journey and I talked about verses and I talked about take a small verse, be still and know that I am God. What does that mean to you in that moment? Well, it still applies now, be still and know that I am God, but on a bigger scale, doesn't it? So now you want to read more of what does that mean about being still and being with God. So you want to read more of the verse. You should read a little bit before and a little bit after to get more of the content of what you're reading and have a better understanding of what that verse means. What exactly is God talking about to be still? How do we do that? What do we do? I want to know more. I want to learn more. The only way you're going to know more and learn more is read more of the Bible. Right? You guys, have a great weekend. I love you.